Hello, I'm Suzanne James. Welcome to Nightshift, where we talk about all things voluntary assisted dying in Australia. We'll be speaking today with Dying with Dignity Victoria board member and leader of their Canine Ambassador program, Danielle Jacobs. On top of her volunteer work for the Dying with Dignity Victoria board and her day job as a senior psychologist, executive coach and speaker, Danielle donates her time to various other community volunteer projects as well. To tell us some more about Dying with Dignity Victoria's Canine Ambassador program and what else she and her beloved rescue dogs have been up to lately, she joins us now from Melbourne. Danielle Jacobs, welcome.
Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you for having me.
So despite a very busy life and a very busy job, you still find time to volunteer for numerous other community projects over the years. Tell us what volunteering passion projects you're devoting your personal time to right now, and tell us, Danielle, why they're important to you.
I am very blessed, Suzanne, to have the time and space to dedicate about half of my time to voluntary pursuits. They fall into two buckets at the moment. I do a lot of work with Dying with Dignity Victoria, board responsibilities, and now with the Canine Ambassador program. And the other part of my volunteer work happens in a local palliative care unit through our local hospice, where I volunteer with my two therapy dogs, Ollie and Mia. How I got into all of this, it's not a unique story, I think, for many of us that have chosen to volunteer our time in this space. I saw some really ugly deaths, and they scar you for life. And if I'm absolutely transparent, scare the living daylights out of you. So I wanted to make a positive difference in terms of the legislation, in terms of the choices that people have. And I also realized through those experiences that not everyone is comfortable supporting others who are nearing the end of their life. And it was only when I saw people being alone at the end of their life that I realized that maybe there was a space where I could give back and volunteer in a palliative care setting with my therapy dogs.
The Dying with Dignity Victoria Canine Ambassador program, which you lead, is the first of its kind for Dying with Dignity organisations nationally. How did you come to add that to your list of passion projects? And can you share with us your vision for this particular Canine Ambassador program?
As part of me getting to know the board members, Dying with Dignity Victoria, as people, in terms of what aspects of the law, legislation, and practice they were interested in. We got chatting about the work that I was doing in palliative care with my therapy dogs and the impact that animals have in those situations. And quite a few of the board members spoke up immediately and said that they had witnessed really incredible interactions in hospitals and hospices between animals and patients and families. And Jane literally jumped out, or Jane, our president, literally jumped out of her seat and said, "We need Ollie and Mia as canine ambassadors for Dying with Dignity."
Trust Jane.
Just yeah. And of course, as a huge animal lover and someone already volunteering in that space and combining all my loves, I said, "I'm in. How do we make this happen?" And before you blink, there we have our first Canine Ambassador program, and Ollie and Mia are out and about. The Canine Ambassador program is really a program about utilising the human-animal bond to help people have difficult conversations in the end-of-life space, to create safe spaces for people to share their wants and needs and concerns about that space. And so practically what that looks like is me at the moment, me, Ollie and Mia going out doing end-of-life choices workshops together in retirement villages, at U3A events, at Dying to Know Day events, and most recently we were in Parliament launching Dying with Dignity Victoria's VAD advocacy reform program. And so it looks very different, but it's always in an effort to try to help people have really important conversations and really assist people in having the best end of life choices that they can and making those choices in an informed way.
There's a common misconception with therapy dogs that people might expect, like the miniature cavoodle or perhaps the fat docile Labrador. Not that they're not good therapy dogs, but it's less about the breed, more about the temperament, isn't it? I mean, Ollie and Mia are both crossbreeds, yeah?
Yes, well, in the spirit of honesty, I was actually rejected. Well, by me, myself, Ollie and Mia were rejected for work at another palliative care agency because that's exactly what they wanted. They wanted a small lap dog, and they couldn't come at the idea of two 53-kilogram dogs being of any value and not scaring the patients in a palliative care unit. But I think that there is something actually, especially in a palliative care unit in that work, but also in the end of life conversations space. There's something really gorgeous about the disheveled Mr. Miyagi look that Ollie and Mia have that makes them really, they're not all prim and proper. And often when people are not feeling 100%, there's something just adorable about these shaggy mixed breeds coming in and really the dogs representing the diversity of the people that we have, because there are a lot of same looking breeds in the therapy dog sector, and the breeds do count. There's no question that breeds influence behavior, but in my experience it's much more about the temperament of the individual animal and the bond between the animal and their handler than picking certain breeds. But I did sit in the graduation class from the therapy dog training, looking out at a sea of oodles and labs and
With an
greyhounds.
Irish wolfhound.
I mean, yeah, I'm feeling like I would love nothing more than to see more Ollies and Mias and little hot dogs and all sorts. We want that diversity, just like we love it in our community. We want it in therapy dogs too.
So Ollie and Mia are what breeds, please? Cross with?
So Ollie is apparently an Irish Wolfhound cross, and Mia is a Deerhound cross, and they're both shaggy wolf-like creatures with beautiful beards, and they're not small. They're 53 kilograms each, but they're actually really well suited temperament-wise and size-wise because people in wheelchairs and in hospital beds don't need to bend down to pat them. They're at the perfect height. So, in the spirit of honesty, I have had a lab rescue who became a therapy dog as well. So I'm not against those breeds, but I think it's really nice and part of the unexpected joy that people see these weird looking animals that they've not seen before. It's part of the enjoyment and the interaction that we have.
Yeah, and I've talked to your board colleague many times, Dr. Nick Carr. He's quite
Uh,
smitten with both your dogs. He thinks
he's
they're just gorgeous.
yeah.
So tell us again, just how did you come to own Ollie and Mia? Where did they come from, please? And how did they come to be working with you in particular?
So, both Ollie and Mia I found through a website called petrescue.com. In addition to being an animal lover, I'm a huge advocate for rescue animals. So all of my animals, and I've had 13 dogs now, have all come from Pet Rescue.
Sorry, did you say 13?
I know, I have. I should see a professional about that, but yeah,
Typical shrink.
yeah. But all of them have been rescues, every single one of them. When we lost our beloved Henry, who was a chocolate lab that I adopted when he was 5 years old,
Oh,
um, my heart was just broken, and I needed to give love to another animal, and I went on Pet Rescue. And I wasn't looking for anything in particular, but when I saw Ollie's face, he reminded me of Mr. Miyagi from the Karate Kid with his adorable beard. And I thought, oh my gosh, I he needs to come live with me. So I applied. I don't think I actually checked with my husband before I applied, but that was minor detail. And
oh dear.
that's right. And
He'd be used to it by now.
he went, yes, we're past the warranty period. Um, so Ollie was shipped down from a high kill shelter in rural New South Wales, and we adopted him and signed the paperwork before we had even met him. So we literally got him off the back of a truck at the border, And it was that love at first sight continued, and he was just such a special boy. We just fell in love with him. And then, not maybe 6 months or so after, we thought we've got room in our heart again for another dog. And the same thing happened. I went on pet rescue, and I wasn't looking for anything in particular, but I just saw Mia's scruffy face, and I just had to apply. Mia was down at Ballarat Animal Shelter, and I literally booked in to meet her as soon as I could physically get down there. And yeah, the rest is history. Mia had actually, I think both Ollie and Mia were failed hunting dogs because of the regions that they came from, because of the size of dogs, the irony. Mia's name was Huntley when we adopted her.
Right.
Yeah, so I think that they were failed hunting dogs, but clearly they did not get the memo about being aggressive or hunting anything down, because they're just lovers, not fighters. Again, love at first sight. And that's how Ollie and Mia came to live with us. How they ended up working with me as therapy dogs. Similarly with Henry, my first therapy dog, I just saw a strength in them, that they were seeking out interactions with people, that they really enjoyed the um, the comfort of people, and they provided comfort to others. And there was just something special going on. So it was almost like I just saw strengths in them that I felt that I had an obligation to share, and thought that we could do something special. So then I went through that process of getting them through the therapy dog program. So that's how we started.
You've been through the full gamut of start at the rescue place to graduation with 3 therapy dogs now. What are the markers that make a good therapy dog, Danielle?
Well, it's not just the dog that we need to be worried about. It's the people who are attached to them, Suzanne, as well. So
Who?
it's I know. It's not.
Oh, sorry, the humans. Yes,
I
yes.
know, I know. So with the dogs, I think there are 3 things. Temperament. They have to be calm, patient, tolerant of different people and different environments. I describe them as needing to be bomb-proof. You've got kids, grabbing their ears, and people in wheelchairs, dragging drip machines and all sorts of things. They need to want to be with people and interact with people, because nothing that I do with them is ever forced. They're choosing to interact in that way. And I think they need to be emotionally attuned to people. They need to read the tea leaves about how people are feeling, and respond with appropriate behavior. So respond with calm, respond with affection. And so that is really the driving sort of force behind what makes a good therapy dog. The handler, on the other hand, which I think is really
Like they
important
say,
part of
rescue.
it.
Who rescued
Yeah,
who?
that's right. So I think that they need to be really attuned to the dog's behavior, because this is never about forcing an animal to do something that it doesn't want to do. It's a critical part of the success of the partnership, is setting everyone up for success. So they need to be observant enough to be constantly reading the dog's body language and the people that they're visiting, and ensuring that it's a positive interaction for everyone involved. They need to be calm and centered, because we're often in very emotional environments. And so we need to be a calming presence, and we need to be highly empathetic. And I think also the dog's safety is really number one. So we have to advocate for the dog to make sure that we're not putting them in a position that's outside their comfort zone, because that's when things go wrong. And you're dealing with sensitive environments, people who are vulnerable through illness, through injury, through emotional fragility. And so we've just got to navigate that with caution.
You do a lot of palliative care and end of life work, Danielle, with your dogs. What part can they play in end of life related matters?
It was a really interesting question, Suzanne, that got me thinking when I was preparing for this interview. And I think often people think of therapy animals as a passive thing, and it just makes you feel good while they're sitting there. But I think that what I've observed over many years of doing this is that animals can connect with people in a way that touches people who are feeling really isolated and lonely. And that is an incredibly special thing. They create calm through their presence. You can just see people just find a peace when they're with the animals. And it's not that the animal is doing anything in particular necessary, but just their calming presence and their total focus on that individual. It makes people feel safe that they can share things that they might not otherwise share. It amazes me and the staff at the palliative care unit how deeply we can get into conversations with the presence of Ollie and Mia that the staff might have had some struggles getting into with that patient, for example. But the mere presence of the animal just makes that person feel safe, feel seen, less isolated and supported. And so it's that combination of all those things that just happen together that make it this really special interaction.
Now, Dying with Dignity Victoria hold a lot of free events these days for the Victorian community to help people navigate the various end of life options and things like advanced care planning. That includes initiatives such as your now famous Dying to Know Day. I'm told Ollie and Mia have started attending some of these, as well as your board meetings, senior board AGMs, and partnership meetings. Tell us about that, Danielle.
Yeah, they're becoming quite well known in our circuit, Suzanne. And Nick, Dr. Nick Carr absolutely requests their presence at any meeting that Nick's going to be present at. But as a new program, we were sort of just feeling it out. We had a vision for the program that we would, that the Canine Ambassador program would help facilitate what we regard as really important conversations and help people share difficult personal stories, for example. It started off with them attending board meetings. They've been to AGM meetings. We started taking them to partnership meetings. They were recently in Parliament supporting individuals who were very bravely sharing their personal stories and experiences with VAD. Interestingly, they were also supporting the emotional well-being of the MPs who ended up on the floor in the hallway outside because they didn't want to miss cuddles from Ollie.
Ah,
The Speaker of the House thought that we had a medical emergency and then realised that no, it was just a cuddle stop. So
such a
yeah,
perfect example of what a great equaliser these canine
that's
programs are.
right. That's right. So then she had a good laugh when she realised that the MPs who were sitting on the floor were just there because they were being comforted by Ollie and didn't want to miss an opportunity for a cuddle. And so it's really evolved. They have been to Dying to Know days, and it's our intention that they'll also be available for suitable bad witnessings and other events. And we're just continuing to add pieces to that program as we go, but we can see already, especially from the latest, even in Parliament House, um, the way that they made the whole space feel was just tangibly different.
It's such a positive influence, and there is no better way to break the ice than have a puppy involved.
It's an equalizer, and I think yeah, the MP sitting on the floor was evidence of
That
that.
says it all. Now, Ollie and Mia have also spent a lot of time with you in the palliative care unit while you've been wearing your hospice volunteer hat.
Yeah,
Now, I know you've had some very special experiences there. Can you share some of your favourites with us, please? Tell us about that, Danielle.
absolutely. There are three that I thought were great examples, and I touched on one of them just earlier about the Parliament experience. That room had a mix of MPs, stakeholders, partners, and some really brave individuals, both doctors with that experience, people sharing their personal stories. And so that was a really hard thing for those people to do. And quite a few of those individuals were way outside their comfort zone, sitting in Parliament, sharing their very personal, emotional story in front of a group of strangers. And several of the speakers asked that Ollie sit next to them when they were sharing because they would feel more comfortable. And I just couldn't have been prouder of having them there and knowing that they were just doing such extraordinary, courageous things that just being there and having Ollie sit there, and he was just a beautiful, calming presence. He'd lay out like a tiger in front of the panel and just was just peaceful and calming. And he was just there. He wasn't actively interacting with the speakers, but them just knowing that he was there changed everything. And I had other people coming up to me just as they were walking past going, I feel calmer already just seeing Ollie, or I'm coming back for a pad. I've got to get a pad in before I do XYZ. It just would have had a different feel without the way that animals bring a bridge and a connection to a group of people. And there were two other really special experiences. To be honest, it happens every week and it still makes me cry when I see it or experience it. But these are two of the ones that touched me most. There was a patient in the palliative care unit who was nearing the end of their life. They had very few family, and one of their children came down from hours and hours away to be the only family member there, and they were basically sitting a vigil with this person. They were really isolated. The nurses and the staff were really struggling to connect with this person, and they were displaying signs of stress and agitation. And the nurses are always really attuned to that. They're doing all they can to try to support everyone, not just the patient. And so when I went in with Mia, I didn't know what to expect because this person had been a little agitated towards the nurses. But when I walked in, this person literally jumped out of their chair, arms open, and
Oh,
was calling. And they didn't know Mia's name, but they were calling, the Mia to them. And we spent the next probably close to an hour. I was sitting on the floor with Mia and this person just chatting about all sorts of things, their dog. It went into some very serious conversations about the person that they were supporting in palliative care. And that was just an amazing experience because the nurses were just going, how did that happen? And they had been trying so hard, but just couldn't break it. And I heard later, over the following days, that family member had said to the nurses that they had never felt so seen and cared for in their life, and that the nurses had observed that that family member had become a different person. They had become more emotional. They were sharing more with the nurses. They were open to the support that the nurses and the other staff were providing. And it transformed that person's experience, and the fact that they felt so heard and seen could not have happened without Mia's presence.
so what would you most like people to know about the work you do, Danielle? Because obviously it can take an emotional toll, both in a good way and a bad way. And I've often discussed with Dr. Nick Carr about the emotional fallout to doctors and the support systems that they have. How does that all work for you?
I think that end of life related conversations and support are hard for most people, not just those facing the end of life themselves, but especially for those individuals. And it takes courage and a sense of safety to stay in conversations and enter into conversations about those topics. So, for those who are part of that journey or have the opportunity to positively influence anyone in that space, I think it's important to note that you don't need to solve people's problems to have an incredibly positive impact on them. And that just by listening and providing a safe environment, you're helping them with their own journey. And that add to that the transformative roles that animals can play as a bridge to emotions, to connections, to people. I just think it's a really special combination that is underutilized at the moment. I think also the fact that healing flows both ways. So Ollie and Mia do amazing work for incredible people in our community. And it's a really positive experience for Ollie and Mia. It's one that they really enjoy. So the giving is this two-way piece. And I can't help myself but just to add in there, I find it a really positive experience. We've got layers of support through the hospice, and I'm often chatting with the nurses and the doctors. And also taking care of Ollie and Mia, we want them to kind of be calm and have a space to decompress afterwards. So I'm always looking for cues from them about whether how they're feeling and their engagement. And I'm looking for the cues to make sure that we're not overstaying if they're tired or if they need a break. And so on the way home, I think on the way home from the Parliament House event, for example, Ollie was there for about 6 hours, which is unusually long time, and it asks a lot of a dog, even though I'm out taking breaks. I may have gone through McDonald's drive-through and bought him 6 chicken nuggets in celebration.
You would have expected at least a pup cup after that
Yeah,
shift.
that's right. So I think just being aware of, it's intense work. We need to decompress afterwards. So we do that in a number of ways.
Well, I can't help get the feeling, Danielle, that the Canine Ambassadors program is on the verge of greatness. What's your hope for the future now? What's your vision from here on in for the Dying with Dignity Victoria Canine Ambassador program?
I would love to see us extend our reach and recognition. Ultimately, I'd love for more animals to join the ambassador program. Um, and I want to, because the standards are high in doing that work, in that you need the bomb-proof animals, you need it to be a positive experience. We will have a high standard in terms of bringing animals on board with the Canine Ambassador program, but I can see so many exciting ways in the future that we can make a positive difference to this sector. So I'll be, along with Jane and Nick and the crew at Dying with Dignity Victoria, we'll be continuing to look for those opportunities. There are 3 assessments, one for the dog, one for you, and one for you, the combination of the two. So I would say, what do they need? They need to be really well socialized. They need to be interested in engaging with other people. They need to not be afraid of different sounds and noises. They need to not be reactive to other dogs. So there are some really good videos that you can see online about the tests that they put the dogs through, but the programs vary slightly in their length depending on the organizer.
So to finish on a positive note, which as all dog nuts know is the first rule of positive reinforcement training, I hear Ollie has a particularly funny habit he likes to indulge in when he's off duty. So spill it, Danielle. What does Ollie get up to when he's out of his harness and being a normal dog?
Yeah, Ollie has a really odd habit, but I have to admit, I find I've probably encouraged it unwittingly at various points. But on a nightly basis, so this happens every single night, Ollie will wake me at least twice a night with random gifts that he's collected from throughout the house. And we've had some really strange gifts. There's no theme to the gifts because I've had knobs of butter. I've had framed embroidery pictures. I'm a psychologist, so I've got some interesting books on the shelf. So he picks books off the shelf. And we've had I got the Fearless Organization last night together with a framed embroidery print. They were the 2 presents that I got last night, but he has woken me up to provide me with gardening tools. He's brought me a full laundry basket. I can hear him searching high and low for just the right gift. And so there are times where I've heard him rustling in my office, and I've switched the light on, and he's actually standing on my desk with his head in a wicker basket of art supplies, looking for the perfect paintbrush to gift me at 3 in the morning. So it's just adorable, and I do sometimes share these with the Dying with Dignity board members just for their entertainment, but it's very, very cute.
Well, look, as just a normal mere mortal dog owner, as opposed to a dog therapy trainer and owner, I'm glad to hear that even your dogs can sometimes be naughty boys. That's good to hear.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Danielle Jacobs, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you today. Thanks so much for your time, and best of luck with your Dying with Dignity Victoria Canine Ambassador program.
Thank you so much for having me, Suzanne.
You've been listening to Night Shift. We've been speaking to Danielle Jacobs from Dying with Dignity Victoria Board. She is also running their Canine Ambassador program and building bridges all over town with her rescue dogs, Ollie and Mia. Thank you for listening to Night Shift. I'm Suzanne James. See you next time.